Hello everyone, how you doing? And welcome back to Skye and Evan in the morning. And today we're going to be talking about a classic, Rear Window. Evan, my good sir, what did you think of Rear Window?
Interesting. I'd never seen it, and now like that, like I said, this is one of those all-time classics that I feel like people would be like, "You haven't seen Rear Window?" There's so many parodies, and there's so many filmmakers that have been inspired by it. Yeah, I honestly I don't know how much of you've seen of Alfred Hitchcock, but I've always thought he's like a better director than he is like a character worker. I've always felt like drawn more to like how he actually shoots his films rather than like the characters that are in it. Not to say his characters are bad, but this is one of those movies where what I honestly felt watching it was that the characters that he's watching are more interesting than like the main characters.
Oh
You
yeah.
get like such good storytelling from him looking out the window and from like the incredible sets, but I I was more drawn to those characters than I was to the main characters, which is interesting. So
Yeah, I agree. I
you were I'm not sure where I like sit at it because I did like it, but it's like you seemed more on the negative side, which
I'm
is fine. But
I don't know. It was fine. It's always hard. So we're gonna talk about like an all-time classic. It's like I'm trying not to step on any toes or anything like that. But it's just like
sometimes like people kind of miss it. I always
yeah,
love that when all times like this is a man. You watch it like it's dated
yeah,
slash bad, and it's like no way. I'm like you
yeah.
monster.
Well, it's kind of how I feel. Where it's like for the time, I'm sure this was like awesome. And I mean, there, like you said, like the directing is like phenomenal, like visually with the tracking a bunch of different characters, like the sets, everything. It just looks amazing as a movie. And the acting's pretty good too. But I thought the story was a little weird, like tonally, and I don't know. I've read that people think like this is like a masterpiece in like suspense and everything, and I'm like, is it? Because I thought the movie was a
Yeah,
comedy until the last like 10 minutes. Because I thought the
a
entire
comedy.
yeah, I thought the movie was making fun of Jeff, of being like he is so bored that he created this entire scenario in his head that there's a murder in the next like you know at his neighbor's place. When in fact nothing has happened and he just created everything in his mind because he was like you know like
Well,
super bored. I thought that was what was going on, but then the murder turns out to have actually happened. And I was like, wait, so this entire story is supposed to be taken seriously? Because it seemed so far-fetched that like every single piece of evidence pointed towards them being wrong, which I thought was going to be the point. And like, like his girlfriend like believing him straight away and everything. I don't know, it felt like a comedy to me until I realized no, it's actually supposed to be like this serious suspenseful drama. I was like, okay.
well, there's a line from Jeff where he says like if I prove that he didn't do it, like is that is that ethical to like have watched him and to figure out
Yeah.
that he's innocent, that he actually didn't commit the murder? And I'm like, yeah, it's flimsy. I thought there was going to be something more overt. I thought the murder would like
Well,
all you hear is a scream basically, and then he
yeah.
goes to bed. I thought he'd see something that was like what, and then it would be one of those things where like no, no, but it's like but I saw this,
Yeah.
but it's like he sees all these tiny little details and they're not
Yeah, it's
exactly
very small
convincing. They're not what
things.
you
Like
think.
I thought he was actually going to see the murder. And it's also the other thing where it was fucking hilarious at the end. Mrs. Lonely Heart, like she almost kills herself, and I
Yep.
thought that's why I thought it was a
And they
comedy because I thought there was like she's actually about to kill herself, and they're focusing on the guy who didn't even commit murder.
yeah,
Like that
and
seemed
they
like
they
such a comedic premise, but then it's like no, she actually almost commits suicide, but because of the music, she doesn't. And he turns out the neighbor, what's his name,
well,
Thornbald or whatever, Thornwald, Thorwald. Thorwald. Yeah,
Thornburg? I don't
Thorwald. I
remember.
think Thorwald. Yeah,
Thorwald.
yeah,
I think you're right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Lars Thorwald. That he did actually commit the murder. He wasn't. He was guilty. It was
Well,
so weird. It made no sense
well,
to me.
it was a little ironic too, because honestly, I was kind of expecting that too, because I mentioned that I didn't spoil this movie. I was wondering for a second there when he's in his house and they're like shadow, and he's like, I don't. What do you want? Do you want money? Like, I don't have any
Well, that's what
money,
I
and
thought. It was just gonna be like,
I was like,
"What are you
maybe.
talking about? I didn't even kill my wife. Like, what are you talking about? What did I do to who?" And he was just like confused. I
It
thought,
could
"Yeah, that's where we're going," but then it's not.
Yeah, it could have been an interesting lesson on like snooping
Yeah,
and reading too much into other people's lives. Someone tells him like if you looked into his apartment it would seem insane. And of course,
yeah.
we only see the neighborhood from his perspective, but other people could look at him and judge him, and it's yeah, you were mentioning I think they call her Miss Lonely Heart. Low
Yeah.
key might be my favorite character in the film. And that moment was really weird to me because yeah, they're watching her like clearly setting herself up with pills and like she writes a
Writing a
note and then they
suicide
say
note.
yeah, which I figured that when she was writing I'm like, "Oh shit." And then they say call the police, but then Lisa like goes up at the same time and then like the police just go to her, but they
Yeah,
called the police for her, but they don't care. And they don't care about anyone in this movie like other than how it connects to the murder, which I'm like maybe that's the point that like they're kind of indifferent to them as people, but
well,
they're
I
like
mean, they
validated
they
by the
did have
fact
the
that
line right where Lisa says like, "Oh, what kind of people are we that we're disappointed that a guy didn't kill his wife?" So yeah, I mean there is kind of a point there of like not seeing the neighbors as people. They do try to make that like with the dog dying and everything. Which again, I thought the dog dying
that's
was gonna be a red herring, but turns out it was actually true.
that was so. I love for one that the woman that's there like somehow recognizes that like it was strangled. Like that you have to make a point of that because he tries to strangle him at the
Yeah,
end. But when that dog, I was like, that dog has never been more dead. When it started like picking at the
yeah.
flowers,
Well, I thought it was
I
gonna like die like accidentally, right? And they were gonna be like, "Oh no, you see, it proves that." Well, the thing is, I was still thinking that the murder didn't happen. I don't know. Maybe I need to rewatch this, knowing that the murder happened, and maybe it is a good like mystery suspense movie. But it feels comical. It feels like a movie trying to make a point of like snooping bad, and people deserve their privacy. But then he actually solves a murder by snooping. So I don't know. I don't know. It's
yeah,
weird.
it's a little weird, like tonally and thematically. It's like because, like I said, it's one of those things. Like they just solve the murder at the end, and it's like, well, that's it, we won. It's like okay, but
It feels weird. It
yeah,
feels. I don't know.
the
Maybe it's a thing of its time. I don't know. It's 1954. Things were very different then. I feel like a movie like that nowadays would have like a very ironic ending. That seemed very
well,
straightforward.
it's funny. Have you heard of the movie Disturbia?
No.
I've wanted to check that out for a while. The guy who directed his name is DJ Caruso. Not the greatest track record. It's basically Rear Window Shia LaBeouf edition. The guy, I don't know what he does, but he's put on house arrest with a bracelet around his ankle, and he has to like he can't leave his house at a certain area, and he's just stuck. And he does rear windowing basically, where he just kind of like looks out and spies on the neighbors. And from what I understand, like the supposed murder is more overt, and he calls the police, and like people don't believe him. And I don't know where the story goes. I don't know how it is. Christopher Landon, who did the Happy Death Day movies, actually was one of the writers, which is why I've been curious to check it out. But
Interesting.
it's I do wish that more of this movie, because you were mentioning like the mystery elements, that maybe like it would have been a better mystery had like they laid out better clues. But yeah, like he sees such small things that don't necessarily point to a murder, but in the end, he's right. And I don't know, maybe
It's
they
supposed to
needed some
be a
sort of a red
little.
herring that would have
Yeah.
like given him more pause because all they really do to reflect is just looking at like Miss Lonely Heart, and they're just like, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. And I'm like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. It's like there's like so many like big points of just like showing how the the evidence just doesn't stack up their way, and like the only thing that doesn't add up was that like he had to make a long distance call, which he wouldn't have needed to call his wife if he got the letter saying that she arrived. It was like the only time I was like, oh, okay, so there is like some suspicion, but the rest is like airtight, which is why I thought it was like, oh, it's probably just a red herring, and it is. I don't know. I don't know, man. And it's like it seems to be played for laughs, like them entering the fucking apartment and her hiding as he he gets it back into his apartment, and her with the fucking wedding ring on her head. It was just like, oh, so this is funny, right? But apparently people say this is like very suspenseful and like scary, that oh, he's gonna do something, but like it felt comical to me. I don't know. I I don't want to like rag on like this like classic that everyone says is a masterpiece, but I don't know. I like Hitchcock. I love Psycho, but it's just this movie. It was weird to me. It felt like it didn't know what it wanted to say.
Yeah, tone is probably the biggest thing that I've found confusing because like I mentioned, I love how it was shot, but usually, because you haven't seen Vertigo, right?
No, not Vertigo. No.
Vertigo is a really interesting movie. It's basically a classic noir, even though it was made like I think in 1960. It was like past where like noir films were like more popular, and it's one of those movies that even though like you not much happens in the story, like the way it's shot and the way it's presented, it's tense, and they build to the third act really well, and it keeps you guessing, keeps you wondering what's happening. It's a really interesting story. This I didn't feel that same sense of tension. For one, you're mostly with the characters like in the actual like apartment, and then the rest is him looking out. I found the actual, and that's why I found the characters he's spying on more interesting, because that's like probably more interesting than what's going on in the apartment. But for the most part, you're stuck with the main character. So
Yeah.
to touch on the direction here, because I got this opening scene, I was like, oh my God, Alfred, you're a genius. For one, like the credits over the like shades opening, and then they pan through. You get like a view of everything. They show how like hot it is outside. It's like almost 100 degrees. And then you see all the neighbors, and then a cast, like what you're looking at, and you're like, oh, okay. And then it says, here lie the bones of LB Jeffries. So it's like, okay, you know the main character's name all of a sudden. Smashed camera, and it's like photographer. And then the picture, which turns out to be the picture that he took, which injured him. And you just get all that through. And it's like 3 minutes of that, no dialogue before they fade to black. And you just get like pretty much all the information you need about the main character, like right before it actually happens. I was like, dude, I love this. And a lot of the movie, to this movie's credit, is like that, where
Oh
they
yeah.
do convey information well, and the dialogue is pretty sharp. It's very well
They
shot.
do a lot when you consider that the movie is shot just inside that apartment, either inside looking out or inside, looking in. But it is like really impressive how like expressive the visuals are for a movie just set in one location. It's wild.
Yeah,
It's really good.
and and usually from that same angle, because it's the whole thing. He's looking out of his window, and they just made the the set so fascinating, and all the characters so unique. I love the couple that just inexplicably sleep on their fire escape. I remember just seeing that in the opening. I'm like, why is that guy? There's literally a mattress out in his fire escape, and he and his wife just both sleep there. That was so funny to me, and they're the same people whose dog gets killed. But I was like, dude, that they made the NPCs interesting, and the music. I wish they'd cut that line where she says the music stopped her. It's like you didn't need that line, and it's cool at the end where she like meets up with the pianist, and I love that scene as well where they look out. The scene that gives them pause is when that guy like comes back and hurts her. But the first one where she like plays out a scenario where she's meeting with someone and like is on a date or and is having dinner and drinks like and it's that was I love that element of this movie where you get character through someone seeing and looking at them and just kind of
Yeah.
wondering what they're like.
Well, it's what's
People
interesting
are
because we
interesting in
never
that
hear
regard.
them, and I thought the movie was gonna like use that to like the some advantage to like to do something interesting with the killer, but they ended up not doing it. But the like with the other side characters, it's all like he telling a story, and it's like it's great. The fucking ballerina, like the guy coming back from war, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Like it's not like she's just like kind of hanging out with other guys or is like, a player or something like that of like she's faithful and has someone that's like just not there for her now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know.
I
It was very interesting. I really really like the storytelling, like the environmental storytelling and everything. I do wish they had done something more with the recently married couple, though. They just made the joke of like they're always
yeah.
fucking, and then she's like, "Oh, if I knew you lost your job, we wouldn't have gotten married," and then that's the end of them. Like, I
Yeah, and
don't
they
know.
like show him smoking once, but other than that, the shade's pretty much down the whole movie. That was interesting. They did a lot more with the other characters they were watching, but them, it's just like,
Yeah,
and the real reason is to like show. There's a lot of that with the supporting characters where like they're largely married. I mean, what's the main conflict of the film? It's someone who killed his wife, and he doesn't want to get married, and it's a
yeah,
classic thing in movies like this from that age. There's the guy who's supposed to get married, like all your problems are solved when you like get the girl at the end of the movie. So it's you know they do that couple like works well enough in that regard for just making him kind of you know
yeah,
want peace, want happiness.
yeah. I don't know. It was fine. Probably a movie I don't care to rewatch anytime soon. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, I'd because I am mixed. It's like it's relatively low. I don't know where people would rank it on Hitchcock, and I need to see more Hitchcock. I haven't seen some of his like lesser movies. Like Strangers on a Train is one that I've meant to see forever. I love the premise of that movie. I haven't seen Dial M for Murder. There's a bunch of movies from him that are lesser known that I want to watch, and I haven't seen much. But this one, I definitely prefer the other films I've seen from him to this, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe had I grown up with this movie, because a lot of, like I said, a lot of filmmakers like uh reference this film as like inspiration for tension or visual storytelling with like the window and stuff like that and perspective. And there's a lot to like at this movie, but the whole package, like it wasn't quite as solid as something like Psycho or Vertigo for me.
Yeah. Well, okay.
You,
I
yeah.
think the thing is, right? Because it is, you do have a movie podcast. So I assume some of the people listening are a little bit of a little cinephiles. So it is the kind of movie where like you kind of have to watch it, you know? The same with Nosferatu where we
Yeah,
talked about it like months ago. You kind of have to at some point if you are a cinephile. You know what I mean?
yeah, well, it makes so many people's top tens. It's like 8.5, or like Metropolis. It's just there are those movies that are like such classics that even if they're like aged a bit or you don't like them, it's like required reading. And I'm glad to have seen this movie, and it there's a lot to like. Just like I said, the whole package wasn't quite there for me, but I I'm very glad to have seen this film,
Yeah.
and
So I
it's
recommend
worth
in
it.
that regard, but in terms of like, I don't know. Everyone seems to love it and say it's a really great suspense, so maybe I'm just wrong. But like for me, I would probably say it's like if you're looking for a suspense in that vein, it's probably, you know, I wouldn't recommend it. Um, I don't know. There are interesting stories about this. I mean, I watched it with Evan, what, Jesus, 4 years ago? Woman in the Window, which I thought was a pretty interesting version of this as well, based
Oh
on the
yeah,
book
yeah,
and
yeah,
everything
yeah.
with Amy
I
Adams. Yeah.
uh,
I know you didn't
I think
love
there's
that
one.
movie, but I did like it, so I don't know.
There's one. Oh man, I think Micah Monroe. It's a little different, but it's one of those things. Like it's not like too interesting of a premise. Like someone thinks they've seen a murder and like just investigate it themselves. Like it's just kind of a thing. But this movie's definitely inspired a lot of other stories like
Yeah.
this, and it's cool when you see that. It's cool watching movies like that and being like, well, it kind of came from this, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's the kind of thing like with us watching these classics is that we are seeing the origins of all of this. It's I always mention like Ocean's 11 as a movie where like when you watch it you're like this is the most generic movie ever made, but then you realize it's the movie that started all of this. So it's not generic. Everything that came after it is copying it.
We
So, yeah.
we've got to. Have you seen? You haven't seen Ocean's 11 yet, have you?
No, I haven't.
I gotta recommend it at some point. I love that movie. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. With that said, it's time for me to recommend something. Um,
Yes, it is. What do you
yeah.
got for us, Skye?
You know what? I was gonna recommend something else that I've told you about, but I've decided against it. I'm gonna recommend an old movie. Just because you recommended a classic one, I'm gonna recommend
Ooh.
a classic one. So, which one is it going to be? You know what? Sure. I'm going to recommend The Exorcist from 1973.
Oh, have you ever seen The Exorcist?
I have not. My mom always says it's like one of the best movies ever made. So, yeah.
It is very interesting. It's the thing is there's so many Exorcist movies now. There's so many movies about exorcism and like, you know, the last Exorcist 3 kind of a thing. It's just like Jesus Christ. That movie, what it does so well, like I don't know. I'm sure Mike Flanagan is super inspired by it, but it's got that Mike Flanagan style where it's like very quiet and character oriented, and people remember the more grotesque moments, but that's not what most of the movie is. And it's long too. I think it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. Like it's not some short, you know, exorcism. Like it's a very introspective and character driven movie. I think you'll really like it. I love The Exorcist. Damn.
Yeah, Exorcist. All right. Yeah. I need to get to back to get to watching a lot of these classics. And I mean, it's a thing. I the reason I have this movie on my watch list is because Mike Flanagan made a list on Letterboxd being like some of the best movies ever, and I just added a bunch of them, and there's like a lot of movies that are like very old. I'm like, I need to watch these, especially if Mike Flanagan says they're good. Obviously, you know, The Exorcist is a
Yeah.
famous one. There are like less famous ones that are on that list, so we're gonna make our way through that list at some point.
Yeah, like I said, I'm sure that he was very much
Oh yeah,
inspired by that film, so it's awesome.
yeah. It is interesting. I might mention for us to do something with watching the Haunting, this 1963 version. I
That
have watched that movie. I don't think it's like an amazing movie, but from what I hear, and I just started reading the Haunting of Hill House book. It is very faithful, so I'm interested to like compare it because we both obviously love the Haunting of Hill House TV show. So yeah.
Well, that's something as well. There's a couple of movies that I would love to read the book before I like recommend it, and that maybe we could read the book at the same time. Because like I haven't seen the Haunting movie because I've wanted to read the book, and I've heard like it adds a little more. The movie's not a perfect like representation of that, and the book will probably like have some stuff that the show did. So yeah, that would be an interesting one to recommend as well for sure.
Oh yeah. Um. Okay. That said, uh, I will. That is it for today. Sorry, my brain broke for a second there.
The
That is it for
Exorcist
today.
next
The
week.
Exorcist next week. Yeah, getting into some horror classics. I do need, as a certified horror lover, I do need to watch a lot of the, horror like, classics. So yeah, I think The Exorcist is a good place to get started with that. To watch. Another one that I'm definitely gonna recommend soon is Rosemary's Baby. My mom says that's like her favorite movie of all time.
Uh,
So yeah.
Hmm. I'm a little more mixed on Rosemary's Baby, not gonna
Hmm.
lie.
Interesting.
We'll get around to it, and I've only seen it once, but that's we'll get there.
We'll get there. Yeah. All right. So thanks for watching, folks. Catch you next week for The Exorcist, and bye bye.
Bye bye.